Imagine this for a second. You wake up one day, look around, and realize that the entire world you were told to build, to protect, to sacrifice everything for is now screaming that it never needed you in the first place. And then years later, when the bills pile up, when the loneliness becomes unbearable, when the weight of reality finally crushes down without anyone left to carry it, those same voices turn around and ask, almost in disbelief, where have all the good men gone? What you are watching right now is not just a trend, it is not just a moment. It is the quietest revolution in modern history. And by the time you reach the end of this script, you are going to understand exactly why millions of men have decided that walking away was not giving up. It was the single greatest act of self respect they have ever performed. Stay until the very last word, because I am going to show you proof that this is only the beginning. And the next 5 years are going to change everything you thought you knew about relationships, society, and power. If you want more raw, unfiltered, angry guy content that cuts through the noise and tells it exactly like it is, smash that like button right now. Share this with every man you know who needs to hear it, and subscribe with notifications on because we drop truth several times a week. And while you are down there, go click the link in the description and check out Angry's Crypto Academy. That is where I teach regular guys how to buy, sell, trade, and most importantly, protect their hard earned assets in this wild digital world so nobody can ever take what you built ever again. The full academy is linked below. Go enroll right now. It could be the best decision you make this year. And if these videos are hitting home, if they are waking something up inside you, show some love and buy me a Red Bull through the link in the description. Every can keeps the fire burning and the content coming. Let me take you back to where it all started, because this did not happen overnight. This was decades in the making. Picture a young boy growing up in the 90s or early 2000s. He is told from every direction that he has to be the provider, the protector, the fixer, the rock. He watches his father work 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week just to keep the lights on and food on the table. He sees his dad come home exhausted, only to be told he is not doing enough, not present enough, not emotional enough, not rich enough, not tall enough, not whatever enough. That boy grows up believing that if he just works harder, if he just earns more, if he just becomes the perfect version of what society says a man should be, then everything will fall into place. He will get the girl, he will get the respect, he will get the life he was promised. Fast forward 15, 20 years. That same boy is now a man in his late 20s, 30s, maybe early 40s. He did everything he was told. He went to college or trade school, he got the job, he climbed the ladder, he saved, he invested, he stayed out of trouble. And what did he get for it? He got told that his natural masculinity was toxic. He got told that the way he sits on a train is offensive and needs its own special shame word, manspreading. He got told that wanting to start a family and have children made him controlling. He got told that expecting loyalty in a relationship made him insecure. He got told that paying for dates while being used as an emotional tampon and a walking ATM was just what men are supposed to do. He got dragged through family court and financially destroyed because he dared to love someone who decided one day that she was no longer happy. He watched his children get weaponized against him while he still had to pay for everything. He watched his name get dragged through the mud on social media because he looked at a woman the wrong way at the gym while she was wearing leggings thinner than tissue paper and filming herself for attention. That man reached a point where the math no longer added up. The risk was infinite and the reward was non existent. And one day, something inside him snapped, not in anger, not in rage, though those emotions were definitely there, but in clarity. A cold, calm, razor sharp clarity that said, wait a minute, they told me to go away. They told me they did not need me. They told me I was the problem. Fine. Message received. And instead of begging, instead of pleading, instead of trying to negotiate desire where none existed, he simply stood up, turned around, and walked away. And here is the part nobody saw coming. He discovered something on the other side of that decision that changed everything. Peace, real peace, the kind of peace he had never known because his entire life had been spent chasing validation from people who had already decided he was worthless unless he was giving them something. He discovered that waking up on a Saturday with no plans, no demands, no drama, no accusations, no guilt trips was not lonely. It was freedom. He discovered that cooking a steak for himself, playing a video game he actually enjoyed, going to the gym without worrying about being secretly recorded and shamed online, sleeping 8, 9, 10 hours without someone waking him up to argue about nothing was luxury, actual luxury. And the craziest part, he started thriving. His bank account started growing because he was no longer funding someone else's lifestyle. His mental health improved because he was no longer walking on eggshells every single day. His physical health got better because he finally had time to take care of himself instead of everyone else. He started businesses. He learned new skills. He traveled. He built brotherhoods with other men who had made the same decision. He realized that the thing he had been told his whole life would destroy him, being alone, was actually the thing that finally saved him. Meanwhile, back in the world he left behind, something fascinating started happening. Women began posting videos, thousands of them, tens of thousands of them, all asking the same question in different ways. Where are all the good men? Why won't men approach anymore? Why is dating so hard? Why can't I find a guy who will pay for everything and put up with my attitude and never expect anything in return? And the best ones, the ones that make you laugh until you cry, are the ones where they say, I make $90,000 a year. I have my own place. I have no kids. I am a strong, independent woman. Why can't I find a man who earns 200,000, is 6'4", looks like Chris Hemsworth, has no baggage, and wants to worship the ground I walk on while I give him nothing but attitude and demands? And the comments are pure gold because the top comments are always men saying, calmly, quietly, respectfully, we're right here. We just stopped playing a game that was designed for us to lose. That is the moment we are living through right now. That is the shift. It is not loud. It is not violent. It is not even particularly angry anymore. It is millions of men making the same decision at the same time. Opt out, log off, walk away. And the beauty of it is that it is completely legal, completely peaceful, and completely unstoppable. You cannot shame a man who no longer cares what you think. You cannot guilt a man who has already accepted that being called a bad person is the price of admission for having boundaries. You cannot threaten a man with being alone when he has already discovered that alone is the upgrade. And now the consequences are starting to roll in. Housing costs are through the roof. And single women are discovering that two incomes really were better than one when it comes to affording a mortgage. Inflation is crushing everyone, and women are realizing that those free meals they demanded on dates actually added up to real money that men are now keeping in their own pockets. Birth rates are collapsing because men are no longer willing to sign up for a system that punishes fatherhood. Marriage rates are in free fall because men looked at the contract, read the fine print, and said hard pass. And every single day, another video goes viral of a woman in her mid 30s crying into her ring light asking why all the good men are gone, while completely ignoring the trail of destruction she and millions like her left behind. This is not about revenge. This is about consequences. This is about cause and effect finally catching up to decades of bad decisions. Men did not declare war on women. Women declared war on men, on masculinity, on biology itself. And men simply surrendered on terms that favored their own survival. They laid down their weapons, walked off the battlefield, and went home. And home turned out to be pretty great. I want you to think about something. Every great civilization in history had one thing in common. They all relied on the voluntary cooperation of men. Men built the roads, the bridges, the power grids, the farms, the factories, the armies, the navies. Men invented almost everything that makes modern life possible, and men did all of it for thousands of years because there was a payoff, there was a reason, there was a family to protect, children to raise, a wife to provide for, a legacy to build. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. Take away the payoff, make the cost infinite and the reward non existent, and men do what men have always done when the deal is bad: they stop showing up. That is where we are right now. Men are not broken. Men are not lost. Men are not refusing to grow up. Men are responding rationally to a set of incentives that any logical person would reject. And the most powerful part of all of this is that it is entirely voluntary. No one can force a man to care when he has decided that caring costs too much. No one can force a man to invest when the return is negative. No one can force a man to sacrifice when the people demanding the sacrifice have spent decades telling him he is worthless. So here we are. Women told men to go away, men listened, and now the silence is deafening. Let me paint a picture for you that almost nobody is willing to say out loud, because the moment you say it, people clutch their pearls and scream that you hate women. But facts do not care about feelings, and the numbers are getting impossible to ignore. In the United States right now, single women between the ages of 25 and 40 are the fastest growing group filing for bankruptcy. Not single men, not couples, single women. Why? Because for the first time in modern history, they are being forced to live on a single income in an economy that was literally designed around the assumption that two incomes would always be there, one of them male and willing to work himself into an early grave. The housing market, the car market, the student loan system, the entire credit structure of the Western world was built on the silent agreement that men would keep showing up, keep paying, keep providing, no matter how badly they were treated. That agreement has been terminated. The contract is void, and the shockwaves are just beginning. Look at what is happening in the dating market. It is not even a market anymore. It is a ghost town on one side and a feeding frenzy on the other. The top 20% of men, the ones with height, money, status, looks, whatever metric the apps use, are drowning in options. They can spin plates for years, never commit, never settle, because there is always another match waiting. The bottom 80% of men have simply disappeared. They deleted the apps. They stopped swiping. They stopped approaching in real life. They looked at the data, looked at the divorce statistics, looked at the family court horror stories, looked at the endless videos of women laughing about how they would take half plus child support plus alimony and still call the man a deadbeat. And they quietly closed the laptop and said, "Yeah, I'm good." That is not incel rage. That is not bitterness. That is a cold, rational cost benefit analysis that any actuary would be proud of. And the women who spent the last 15 years bragging that they were the prize, that they were the table, that men needed to step up and bring more, while they brought attitude and a list of demands longer than a CVS receipt, are now staring at an empty inbox and wondering why nobody wants to play anymore. They post the crying videos, the "where are all the real men" videos, the "I'm 34 and my fertility window is closing and I can't even get a text back" videos. And every single time, the comment section is a war zone of men calmly explaining exactly why the game ended. And the best part, the part that keeps me up smiling at night, is that the men in those comments are not even angry anymore. They are amused, they are relaxed, they are at peace. They are the ones who finally figured out that the ultimate power is the power to walk away and never look back. Let us talk about the birth rate collapse for a minute, because this one is going to hit like a freight train in about 10 to 15 years, and nobody is ready. Japan is already there. South Korea is already there. Italy, Spain, Germany, Canada, the United States, all heading in the same direction at different speeds. The replacement rate is 2.1 children per woman. South Korea is at 0.72 right now. That is not a slowdown. That is a cliff. And the reason is not complicated. Men looked at fatherhood the way it exists today and said, no, thank you. Why would any rational man sign a contract where he works 40 years to pay for children he only gets to see every other weekend, while still paying for their entire lifestyle, while being told he is a visitor in their lives, while knowing that one text message accusation could land him in jail and destroy his name forever? That is not fatherhood. That is slavery with extra steps. So men opted out. And now countries are panicking because they are realizing that an economy cannot run on a shrinking population forever. Pensions collapse, healthcare systems collapse, real estate collapses. Everything collapses when there are not enough young people to pay for the old people. And the solution every government is floating right now is the same: tax single men more, force men back into relationships, shame men for not wanting to participate. Good luck with that. You see, the thing about men walking away is that it is the one form of protest that cannot be stopped, cannot be arrested, cannot be canceled, cannot be debated into submission. You cannot shame a man who has already accepted that your opinion of him is worthless. You cannot threaten a man with loneliness when he has discovered that peace is priceless. You cannot guilt a man into giving you his time, money, and life force when he has finally learned the value of keeping those things for himself. This is the ultimate red pill superpower: indifference. And millions of men have unlocked it at the exact same time. I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine a world where the average man keeps 100% of his income, spends it exactly how he wants, sleeps 8 to 10 hours a night, eats ribeyes whenever he feels like it, plays video games, or lifts weights, or builds businesses, or travels, or does whatever actually makes him happy without a single person on the planet telling him he is wrong for it. That world is not coming. That world is already here for millions of men, and the number grows every single day. Every time another woman posts a video screaming that men need to man up and marry single mothers, another 10,000 men delete their dating profiles. Every time another family court judge awards primary custody to a mother who cheated and then demands the father pay for the privilege of being erased from his children's lives, another 10,000 men decide that biological fatherhood is a trap not worth springing. Every time another article comes out calling men immature for enjoying their own company, another 10,000 men look around at their clean apartment, their growing investment accounts, their quiet weekends, and think, yeah, this immaturity thing is working out pretty great. This is not a phase. This is not a trend that will reverse when the economy gets better. This is the new normal. The pendulum did not just swing, it broke off the clock and shattered on the floor. Men have seen behind the curtain. They have seen the raw data. They have read the studies. They have watched their fathers, their brothers, their friends get destroyed. They have watched the culture celebrate the destruction of men as if it were entertainment. And they made a collective decision that the juice is not worth the squeeze, not even close. And here's the part that almost nobody is willing to say out loud: men are happier now than they have been in decades. Clinical depression rates among young men are dropping for the first time in forever. Suicide rates are still tragically high, but the increase has slowed dramatically among men who have embraced this lifestyle. Gym memberships are through the roof. Men's grooming products are $1 billion industry. Men are starting businesses at record rates. Men are traveling alone, eating better, sleeping better, saving more, investing more, and smiling more. Because for the first time in their lives, the only person they have to make happy is the one in the mirror. And that person is finally getting the care and attention he was told his whole life to give to everyone else first. Meanwhile, the loneliness epidemic among women is exploding. Therapist offices are packed with women in their 30s and 40s who spent their 20s chasing careers and excitement, and the top tier men who never committed, and now they are staring down the barrel of childlessness and cat ladies stereotypes they used to mock, and it is hitting them like a brick wall. They are posting through tears about how they were lied to, how feminism sold them a bill of goods, how they were told they could have it all, and now they have none of it. And the men who used to line up to dry those tears are nowhere to be found because those men finally learned that being Captain Save a Ho is a one-way ticket to resentment and financial ruin. I want you to understand something crystal clear. This is not about hating women. This is about loving yourself enough to stop setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm when they keep telling you they do not even need the heat. This is about boundaries. This is about self respect. This is about waking up one day and realizing that the greatest gift you can give the world is refusing to participate in your own destruction. And the best part, it is spreading. Europe, Australia, Canada, South America, even parts of Asia. Everywhere the same pattern, everywhere the same awakening. Men are talking to each other now like never before. Forums, Discord servers, YouTube channels, podcasts, private groups, everywhere. Men are sharing notes, comparing experiences, and realizing they were never the problem. The incentives were the problem. The culture was the problem. The lies were the problem. And the solution was always the same: walk away. So when you see another article whining about where have all the good men gone, just smile. When you see another podcast of women complaining that men will not commit, just nod. When you see another viral TikTok of a woman demanding that men lower their standards while she lists requirements that would make a Greek god blush, just sip your coffee and keep scrolling because you already know the answer. The good men did not disappear. They just stopped being good little boys who do what they are told when there is nothing in it for them. They leveled up. They chose peace over chaos. They chose themselves for the first time in their lives. And nothing in this world is more powerful than a man who has decided that his peace is non negotiable. The economic fallout is already here, and most people are still pretending they cannot see it. Let me walk you through what is happening right now in real time because the numbers are brutal and they are accelerating. Single women in the United States now own more homes than single men do. That sounds empowering until you look under the hood. They are buying because prices are so inflated that the only way a single income can even get into the market is with massive government subsidies, FHA loans with 3% down, first time buyer grants, and every trick in the book. Meanwhile, single men are renting modest apartments, driving paid off trucks, and stacking cash because they know the housing bubble is going to pop harder than anyone is ready for. When that happens, and it will, the same women who bragged about owning property without a man are going to be underwater on six-figure mortgages while the guy in the one bedroom with no debt just keeps stacking. Credit card debt among women aged 25 to 34 just hit an all-time high. Not among men, women. Why? Because the lifestyle they were sold, the brunch lifestyle, the travel lifestyle, the boss babe lifestyle, was never sustainable on one income. It was always subsidized by men, either directly through dating or indirectly through taxes and inflation that men used to absorb by working overtime. That subsidy has been withdrawn. Men are no longer working 70 hours a week to fund someone else's Instagram. They are working 40, maybe 50, going home and enjoying the fruits of their own labor for the first time in their lives. Car loans are another disaster unfolding in slow motion. The average new car payment in America is now over $700 a month. Who is taking out the majority of those 96-month loans at 9% interest? Single women trying to keep up appearances. Men are buying 5-year-old Hondas and Toyotas in cash, driving them for a decade, and laughing at the repo trucks circling the cul-de-sacs. Look at the explosion of OnlyFans and similar platforms. That entire economy exists because millions of men decided that paying $20 a month to look at pictures is still a better return on investment than taking the average woman out to dinner 3 times and getting ghosted. Think about how insane that is. An entire generation of men looked at traditional dating and said, I can get more attention, less drama, and keep 90% of my money if I just subscribe to a few creators. And they were right. The market spoke. The market always speaks. Now, watch what is starting to happen in corporate America. Companies are quietly panicking because young men are no longer killing themselves to climb the corporate ladder. They are doing the job, collecting the check, and going home at 5. No more staying until 8 to impress the boss. No more weekend emails. No more sucking up to get that promotion that will just mean more hours and more stress for 10% more money that will mostly go to taxes and child support anyway. The phrase quiet quitting was invented because men stopped caring about being seen as ambitious when ambition stopped paying off in anything except ulcers and divorce papers. The overtime statistics are collapsing in every developed country. Japan has been dealing with this for 20 years. They called it herbivore men. Young Japanese men decided that working themselves to death for a company that would fire them at 50 and a wife who would probably divorce them anyway was a bad trade. So they stopped. They work their 40 hours. They go home. They play games. They eat convenience store food. They save half their income. And the entire Japanese economy is now structured around trying to trick these men into spending money they refuse to part with. Sound familiar? It should. We are about 10 years behind Japan on the timeline, and we are catching up fast. Governments are starting to notice. Canada floated a bachelor tax idea last year and had to pull it back because the backlash was immediate. Sweden tried to make military service mandatory again for men only and got laughed out of the room. Politicians in multiple countries are openly talking about incentivizing men to get married, which is code for taxing single men harder and giving the money to single mothers. Every time they float one of these ideas, another 100,000 men look up, shrug, and say, cool, I'll just work less and stay under the tax radar. You cannot squeeze blood from a stone that has already decided to become a monk. The marriage industrial complex is in full panic mode. Wedding venues are closing. Bridal magazines are going bankrupt. Divorce attorneys are some of the only people still making money in this space because the divorces that do happen are still lucrative, but there are fewer and fewer marriages to feed the machine. The average wedding cost in the United States is now $35,000, and the average couple is together less than 7 years before splitting. Men looked at that math and said, I can buy a hell of a lot of ribeyes and video games for 35 grand, and they stopped proposing. Universities are another slow motion train wreck. Young men are opting out of college at record rates. Why spend 6 figures in 4 years to get a degree that gets you a job paying 60,000 a year when you can learn to code online, learn a trade, or start an online business and be making 6 figures by 25 with no debt? The gender gap in college enrollment is now the largest it has ever been in history, and it is widening every single year. The entire higher education system was built on the assumption that men would keep showing up to get the credentials needed to attract a wife and support a family. That assumption is gone. The credential is no longer worth the cost when the payoff has been removed. Mental health platforms built exclusively for men are exploding. Gyms are packed with men who finally have time to train properly. Barbershops are doing record business. Men's fashion, especially workwear and rugged brands, is one of the few growth areas in retail. Men are investing in themselves in ways they never could before because every extra dollar used to go to someone else. The male grooming market is projected to hit $200 billion globally in the next 5 years. 200 billion. That is money men are spending on themselves because they finally can. Look at the rise of male only spaces. Private gyms with no women allowed. Men's clubs that are actually clubs again, not co ed networking events. Barbershops that ban phones and social media so men can actually talk. Hunting lodges, fishing groups, motorcycle clubs, that are growing again after decades of decline. Brazilian Jiu Jitsu dojos full of men who want to train hard and build brotherhood without worrying about being recorded and canceled. These spaces are not just growing, they are becoming the new social fabric for men who have opted out of the mainstream dating and marriage market. Crypto and alternative assets are another massive tell. Men are the primary holders of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Why? Because they finally have discretionary income that is not being siphoned off by weddings, divorces, child support, alimony, or endless dates that go nowhere. A man who keeps an extra $2,000 a month in his pocket instead of spending it on a girlfriend who will leave the moment a taller guy texts her can buy a full Bitcoin in less than 2 years at current prices. That is generational wealth being built one peaceful weekend at a time. Travel is the same story. Solo male travel is one of the fastest growing segments in the tourism industry. Men are going to Thailand, Colombia, Portugal, Poland, wherever they can stretch their dollars and live like kings for a fraction of what it costs back home. They are not going to find themselves in the spiritual sense. They are going because they finally can, because they are no longer chained to a mortgage they cannot afford or a woman who demands they stay home and fix the garbage disposal for the third time this month. Even the food industry is shifting. Steak consumption is up. High end butcher shops are opening everywhere. Men are buying carnivore boxes, ribeyes by the case, because they can finally eat what they want without someone telling them it is unhealthy or too expensive, or that they should be eating kale smoothies to stay attractive to women who were never attracted in the first place. The political consequences are just starting to bubble up. Politicians are noticing that young men are either not voting at all or voting in blocks that scare the establishment. The old tricks shame men into supporting policies that hurt them by calling them immature or fragile or toxic are not working anymore. Men have heard it all before. They just do not care. When you have nothing left to lose, threats lose their power. The media is in full denial mode. Every few months, another article comes out with a headline like The Rise of Lonely Men or Why Men Are Falling Behind. And the solution is always the same. Men need to try harder. Men need to lower their standards. Men need to man up and marry the single mothers. Men need to re enter the workforce at full capacity. Men need to start spending again. And every time, the comments are filled with men saying some version of, no, we are good, thanks. The passport bro phenomenon is the cherry on top. Men are leaving Western countries in droves, not because they hate their home countries, but because they can get better value, better treatment, and better peace of mind elsewhere. The women in those countries are not perfect, but the social contract is still intact. Men are welcomed, respected, and appreciated for what they bring to the table. And the women back home are losing their minds over it, calling these men losers and predators while simultaneously begging them to come back and pay their bills. The cognitive dissonance is chef's kiss levels of delicious. We are now entering the part of the story that almost nobody is willing to say out loud. Because once it is spoken, it cannot be unspoken. This is the end game. This is the point of no return. This is the moment when the last illusions finally shatter and the new reality becomes permanent, carved in stone, impossible to negotiate away. By the early 2030s, the first Western countries will run out of other people's money. The math is no longer theoretical. The baby boom retirement wave is cresting. The birth rate collapse is already locked in. And the number of workers paying into pension systems versus the number of retirees pulling out has crossed the point of no return in country after country. Social Security in the United States is currently projected to be insolvent by 2034. That date keeps getting moved forward because fewer men are marrying, fewer men are having children, and more men are deliberately staying in lower tax brackets to avoid funding a system that punishes them for participating. The same story is playing out in Canada, the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Australia, Japan, South Korea. Every single developed nation that spent decades telling men they were disposable is about to discover exactly how indispensable men actually were when men decide to withdraw their labor, their taxes, and their future children all at the same time. Governments have exactly three options at this point, and none of them work. Option one: raise taxes dramatically on the remaining working population, which is now overwhelmingly male and overwhelmingly single. The moment they try that, millions of men will simply work less, move abroad, go underground, or retire early to countries with zero income tax. You cannot tax people who refuse to earn taxable income. You cannot tax people who no longer live in your jurisdiction. You cannot tax ghosts. Option two: massive austerity, cut pensions, cut health care for the elderly, cut every social program that was promised to the boomers. The political fallout from that would end governments overnight. Old people vote, old people riot when their checks stop coming. No politician wants to be the one who tells 70 million boomers that the party is over because the young men they spent decades demonizing decided not to have kids to keep the Ponzi scheme running. Option three: mass immigration to import new workers and new taxpayers. They are already trying this. It is failing spectacularly. The men coming in are not the high skill, high tax paying engineers the marketing brochures promised. The cultural clash is creating crime waves and social breakdown that further accelerate the flight of Native men who look around and say, "Why would I stay and pay for this?" The women in these countries are not pairing off with the new arrivals at anywhere near the rate needed to replace the missing births. The fertility numbers continue to plummet. Every lever the system pulls makes the problem worse. Every solution creates 10 new problems. And the entire time, the men who saw this coming a decade ago are sitting in their paid off houses or their low cost rentals in Southeast Asia or their minimalist apartments with six-figure brokerage accounts, sipping coffee and watching the panic unfold in real time. The fertility window is closing faster than anyone wants to admit. The average first time mother in the United States is now over 30. In many urban areas, it is 34, 35, 36. Biology does not negotiate. Eggs do not care about your master's degree or your corporate title or your follower count. By the time most professional women look up from the career track and decide they actually do want children after all, the success rates for natural conception and even IVF have fallen off a cliff. The regret videos are just starting. Give it 5 more years, and the internet is going to be flooded with women in their mid 40s weeping into ring lights about how they were lied to, how they thought they had more time, how the doctors told them everything would be fine, and now they are facing childlessness forever. And the men who could have given them the family they suddenly want will be gone, living their best lives in places where women still value family over follower count. Artificial wombs, sperm banks, and government sponsored dating apps are already being floated as solutions. None of them will work at scale. Men will not donate sperm en masse to a system that hates them. Artificial wombs, even if perfected, will be insanely expensive and regulated into oblivion by the same bureaucracies that created the problem. And no government dating app is ever going to convince a man who has tasted peace to go back to walking on eggshells for the privilege of paying 70% of his income in taxes and child support while getting sex twice a year if he is lucky. The marriage strike is becoming generational. Boys who grew up watching their fathers destroyed are now teenagers. They are not rebelling by getting married early like previous generations did. They are doubling down. They are looking at the world their fathers inherited and saying, hard pass. They are growing up with uncles and older brothers who are jacked financially secure, well traveled, and happier than anyone in the previous generation ever was. Those boys are not dreaming of white knights and picket fences. They are dreaming of financial independence by 30, multiple passports, and the freedom to do whatever they want without ever asking permission from a woman or a government. The trad movement, the return to tradition crowd, is already dying. It peaked in 2021 to 2022 and has been bleeding followers ever since. Why? Because men looked at what was being offered, a 1950s fantasy where they work themselves to death while their wife posts thirst traps on Instagram and threatens divorce the moment she gets bored, and they said no. The deal is worse than the modern one. At least in the modern one, up front, it is a scam. The trad version just dresses the scam up in modest dresses and Bible verses. AI companions and virtual girlfriends are about to obliterate whatever is left of the dating market. We are 18 to 36 months away from photorealistic, voice realistic, personality customizable AI partners that remember every conversation, never argue, never age, and cost less per year than 1 month of dating the average Western woman. The moment those hit mass market, the already collapsing female dating value proposition goes to absolute zero for all but the top 5%. Men who were already on the fence will look at the real woman demanding a six-figure income and a perfect jawline versus the AI waifu who thinks he is a king and costs $40 a month, and the choice will be the easiest one he ever made. The male monastery movement is just getting started. Secular retreat centers, men's only compounds, off grid communities built around brotherhood, fitness, purpose, and zero female drama are popping up everywhere. Some are religious, some are purely secular. All of them are growing. Men are pooling resources, buying land, building their own infrastructure, and creating the first truly male spaces that have not existed in the West since the 1950s. Women are already screaming that these places are dangerous, that they are cults, that they need to be regulated or shut down. The men living there just smile and keep building. Quiet millionaires are being minted every single day. The guy who decided at 28 that marriage was a bad bet, kept his income, invested in index funds and crypto, lived below his means, and never got divorce raped, is now 38 with a seven-figure net worth and no one dependent on him. There are tens of thousands of these men already. In 10 years, there will be millions. They do not post about it. They do not flex. They just live extremely well on very little drama and zero oversight. The final stage, the one that locks all of this in forever, is male life extension. The moment men can reliably add 20 to 30 healthy years to their lifespan through peptides, stem cells, TRT, rapamycin, and whatever else is coming down the pipeline, the entire justification for early marriage and family collapses. Why lock yourself into a 30-year contract at 25 when you are going to feel and look 35 until you are 80? Why rush to have children when you will have prime fertility and energy well into your 60s? The biological clock that women are enslaved to simply does not exist for men in the same way. Give men an extra 3 decades of peak performance, and the entire social contract rewrites itself overnight. We are watching the greatest transfer of power in human history, and it is happening in total silence. No marches, no violence, no demands, just millions of individual men making the same quiet decision. My peace is worth more than your chaos. And because it is millions of individual decisions, there is no leader to cancel, no organization to infiltrate, no movement to discredit. It is death by a billion paper cuts, except the cuts are men closing their wallets, deleting their dating apps, and going home to live better than they ever have. The old world is dying. The new world is already here. The only question left is which side of history you are going to be on when the dust settles. The men who walked away are not coming back. They found something on the other side that no amount of shaming, no government program, no crying TikTok, no promise of traditional values can ever compete with peace, freedom, and self ownership. And once a man has tasted that, There is no force on earth that can make him trade it away again. What did you think about everything we just went through? Do you believe this is the biggest shift of our lifetime, or do you think something will reverse it? Are you already living the MWA life, or are you just now waking up to it? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment. Like the video if it hits you in the chest. Don't forget to subscribe with notifications. Share this with every man who needs to hear it today. Buy me a Red Bull if you are feeling generous. Check out Angry's Crypto Academy in the description to protect and grow everything you are building. And always remember, all roads lead to MWA. Men walking away. Cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.